My name is Simapolo and the panel is already set. Dr. Jared Werihe Wanzara, a man from Namisindwa, and he is the head of research and civic engagement at Africa Leadership Institute. And Richard Baguma, a communication expert, is already in the studios, an advocate for proper nutrition. Well, we are again honored to have Charity Ahimsibwe, human rights activist, but the executive director for Electoral Laws Institute. Welcome once again from all you're doing, and let's now go deep into the discussion. Let me introduce Richard Baguma, and it's always a pleasure seeing you in that seat.
Thank you very much, Apollo. For some of us who are still religious, I was meeting people during last week and this week who were telling me they are not religious. For some of us who are still religious, we thank the grace of God, the might of God. Even when we sin, we are forgiven. Very mighty, but also very graceful. So you talked about a warm good morning from here. I think that is very important. It's not a very particularly warm morning in Kampala at least.
Yeah.
But I want to thank the viewers who journey with us all the time. Thank you very much. I also want to thank many of my stubborn panelists, quote unquote, for staying on this show.
Yeah.
And Apple, I think we don't thank the management.
Yeah.
For honoring us with this space. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Charity, speak to our viewers.
A very good morning to all our viewers today. And happy to have Richard and Dr. Werihe and yourself, Apollo.
Wow.
I most certainly told you that you have a special way with your guests, so I'm happy to be here. Against all odds, we are here, and to our viewers out there, most certainly happy to reflect on these issues, sad about the Gomba incident, but I'm also happy that the president was able to reach out to the homes and demand that the Inspector General of Government go ahead to cause accountability from the truck driver and also get the truck driver to compensate those families. Of course, compensation cannot bring back life. These were young lives. I even wonder what happened. We are seeing many trucks running into schools. The other day it was here in Chireka. There was also a young girl who died at 7 a.m. She's about 7 or 6 years old. I mean, you've taken your child, you're sure they're in a safe place, then you're called, the child is dead. I think these things are bad, and there must be an end in sight. We must do something. Either we put barricades around the school, or we do something, we make sure no trucks pass near schools. A new bylaw can be passed that no more trucks are allowed to pass near
Thank you.
school.
That's what we were discussing last week.
Yes.
Road safety.
Yes. So you see, for me, I'm your friend.
Yes, you are.
So anyway, Apollo, I'm happy to be here.
It's really unfortunate, but pleased you are here, Charity.
Yes.
It's always a pleasure to see you. And a man from Namisindwa.
What can I say? I'm so happy to see Charity. And Richard is so displeased this morning. He has not commented about your hairstyle.
He has a kofida himself.
So good morning, viewers. Good morning, Apple.
Yeah.
I join Richard in thanking management for giving us this platform.
Yeah.
And also my people of Namisindwa who are always glued to this show. It's an agricultural area, it's raining. I hope people are preparing gardens. But also as it rains, people need to improve hygiene because usually these rains lead to all kinds of diseases. Thank you very much.
All right.
How come you have not told your people that Kitutu is on a hot seat?
They know they're discussing, and I've discussed her for 3 weeks.
But I thought you were going to put a good word for her, but today...
Not really. I've been straight because
you know what it means.
I know what it means. I'm one who stands for integrity. I will not support someone just because we come from the same district.
Oh, thank you very much, Dr. Wanzala Werihe.
What did Dr. Chitutu do?
She's not a doctor. She is Goreti Chitutu. we have dropped the doctor.
So what did she do? What happened?
She is
Am I behind the news?
I'm also wondering, but she's the minister of the iron sheets which have been flying. You know those iron sheets are very good. They fly from place to place. They find the way they walk. They find themselves in people's compounds.
For us Musevenists, we see things different. I think that's why I didn't understand her.
Colleagues, I think that's what brought us here, and let's now delve into matters directly. And like I said, an eventful week we have before us, and we will also need to look at what is happening in Parliament. The President addressed Parliament this week on matters of national importance. People had their expectations, and some of them were actually addressed in that particular address, but some others were left out, and possibly we'll be looking at what possibly the President talked about and what he left out according to the sections of the public who are responding to his address. But across the borders, gentlemen and lady, there is a matter of protests coming up on Monday. The opposition leader in Kenya, the Azimio leader Raila Odinga, declared 20th Monday a public holiday, and in the laws of Kenya, an opposition leader cannot declare a public holiday, but he's rallying his supporters to march to State House to end Ruto's presidency, which he says is illegal and illegitimate. We don't know how far that will go, but we know that Raila has commanded protests which have actually culminated into chaos in Kenya. And being our neighbors, being our comrades in the East African community, we must be really concerned about what could happen across the border. And I'll seek a comment from you, what you think about that. But when we come back here, we have to look at that presidential address, and possibly the anti-gay law is in Parliament. We talked about it, I think, 2 weeks ago. We have been discussing it, but we can also see that the President has come out to also say something about it. He reiterated what he always said, that the Western nations or countries or leaders should not impose their values and cultures on us. And I'll start with Dr. Gerard Wairihe-Wansara. What do you think of what is happening across our borders? What should we expect? Is really Raila Odinga at his age? We thought the 2021 elections, Kenyan presidential elections were his last, maybe, but looks like he's planning a comeback and possibly to take on Ruto in the next presidential election. What do you think?
Yeah, for me, it takes back. I go back to the election. You know that the election was very close, and the mathematics was not adding up very well. You remember all of us in East Africa and elsewhere had calculators try to determine who really was the winner or whether the IEBC was correct. So an election of which is so close like that, I expected that Ruto is not going to have a very stable government, and therefore what is happening confirms my fears then, and therefore, as you rightly said it, because of the support that Raila has, and also taking advantage of the economy, the things are really tight in Kenya. We remember Ruto came, was saying he's not going to borrow, he's going to abolish borrowing. We are seeing a $1 billion loan request from the World Bank. The Mama Mbogas, the Boda Bodas, he promised the hustlers a fund. They are not contented. Of course, he removed the subsidies, saying they are distorting the economy. The fuel prices went up. So Raila can easily galvanize that and take advantage of what's happening to cause instability. But whether he's going to force the government to collapse, I really don't think it's going to happen. I see Ruto leading for the next 5 years, but then I will see another bitter contest.
What should we expect after that declaration that this will be a mother of all protests? And indeed, I think it is yesterday he was in Nakuru. Today he's and indeed he has a lot of support. I mean, the crowds are many and are big. I don't know, what should we expect?
Me, I think what he's doing is basically he's doing mobilization to remain politically relevant, okay, while looking at the next election. But I'm not thinking he's really going to use this protest to overthrow the government of Ruto.
I mean, on Monday, what should we expect?
Of course, we shall see the protests. I don't believe he's going to call them off because I've already been seeing these other ones, so they are built up to the one on Monday.
Okay.
Yes.
Charity, you were in Kenya and you covered that election. What should we expect? We thought it was the last from Raila Odinga, but looks like he's coming back.
I think one of the most difficult things to do as a politician is to say bye-bye to the political scene. Because for some reason, you feel a connection to the people and the people feel a connection to you. Even when you go away, they keep asking you, but really, did you actually go? Because that's why you see in Serere, we had somebody who had been there 15 years, the Honorable Alice Alaso, coming back even when she knew that the tide had moved and that the people were sympathetic towards Okabe and the way he had died and the circumstances, and most definitely were going to vote a certain way. The population had spoken. And so even if the NRM had tried, put out whatever machinery, Serere had already said much earlier when Okabe died that no, for us we want the son. Now that's the same thing with Kenya. When Raila finally agreed that let Ruto swear in, he had considered that there was defeat. And you see, in democracy, once you consider there is defeat, you should then only wait for the next term to happen. Most certainly, we don't expect him not to participate in politics. He would always find his way back. But the Kenyans in the last election said he was old, he's tired, he's a Baba.
Isn't he 79, 70?
Baba has been in opposition for more than 30 years. He's written off. He can no longer connect with us. What can we expect of Baba? If Baba doesn't get it this time, he should forget. All these things were around and they told him these things. But now once Ruto took over, with the promises he had made, you had the Mama Mbogas, all these things. He made
Hustlers nation.
The hustlers were very happy that it is now our time to eat because that's what he promised. But you see, a politician will promise one thing, but once in the chair, the things are totally different. You must steer the economy in a certain way for you to achieve what you've promised. And so Kenya is at a delicate place, and yes, the protests are going to take place on Monday because the people want them. They want to make a statement to government that they are displeased that government has not done even the most basic. Remember that while the election was in the heat of things, Uhuru cut the prices of posho and all those things, the basics for the ordinary people, these hustlers, he had done. He did those interventions quickly to try and get them to sway to Raila's side. Still, they didn't go. Now comes Ruto, and the reverse is happening at a sporadic rate. So now, of course, for an ordinary person, the most important thing is for you to have food on your table. Once you eat and you can sleep, other things will come later. These things of roads, these things of security, these things.
Actually, even Raila talks about the high cost of living. And indeed, the cost of living is high in Kenya.
It is. It is very, very high in Kenya, but it's also catching up with us here. I don't know if you know that it's catching up with us here, and that is why we find ourselves where we are. But for Kenya, it's a very high cost of living. So what happens then with the protests? Of course, Ruto has said he's not bowing. His Minister of Defense has said they're going to crush them and they're going to come very hard on them.
And Raila is saying he will not be intimidated.
And I tell you the truth, we are going to see blood there. The problem is, once blood is reintroduced in Kenya, then there's going to be a degeneration of many things. If they can keep off the blood, the better. Because 2017 was a turning point for them. If then they go back to 2017, because blood tracing its way back to Kenya roads or places or public spaces would mean they are going back to 20, they have regressed. Then they can as well disintegrate into mayhem. So all these things we gave them, Mbumanya, they talked about democracy, now they have a good democratic path, will be back to zero. So they'll be reading very fast the script from Uganda and saying we like Uganda and we live in the script of Uganda. So I think to our brothers across the border, for both the security forces and the ordinary people, there must be a point of restraint. You cannot overthrow a legitimate government, and Raila should be able to respect that position, because he himself agreed that, okay, Ruto is the president. He saw, yes, it was a tight race, and this problem always comes from the winner takes all democratic practice, which
Actually,
the
I wanted to
Americans
ask
sold
you,
to us.
could it be now this protest could it be a bargaining chip, and Raila Odinga is possibly, like we know, he's inviting a handshake?
Yeah, and the Ruto government has said they're not going to handshake. They said, okay, all our brothers earlier did handshakes, but for us, we're not going to go in for a handshake. And I don't know if Raila got a handshake now, he would move away, but he would. He's a politician. Politicians, that's their nature. They're always looking out for what benefits me first. Can I use the people to get to where I want? That is it. That's what politics is all about. Unfortunately, people are gullible across. Right now, look at South Africa. What is happening there? It's the same story. Malema says, you touch us and see, you will be sent to heaven. He's telling police forces who have guns and bullets that for them, they are sending them to heaven. When he has nothing and he has just mobilized the people. Back to Mau Mau rebellion. Remember Mau Mau, they fought with water and the other guys had bullets. But we never learn. We have our historical books, perspectives. We read these things. Okay. But we are always there.
Richard, in our analysis after and during the Kenyan elections, we're saying Kenyans have learned a lesson from the bloodshed of 2009 and 2017. Now it's behind their backs and possibly they are on a road to democracy. What is happening? Do you see optimism? What do you see in these declared protests?
The Honorable Raila Odinga, I think, is the same age with President Biden.
Yeah, around there.
President Biden is preparing to stand again.
Oh.
And that's all right. The Honorable Raila is preparing to stand again, and that's a problem. Why?
Okay.
Yeah, I don't understand. I don't understand why. If the other one is the icon of democracy, why doesn't iconic democracy apply across the board?
Biden has not contested for presidency for 4 times.
President Kennedy is supposed to be a great president. You check in your books how many times he contested. For any position, by the way, head of president of his university, whatever. So if contestation is a problem, and yet we are supposed to be champions of democratic dispensation, I get confused now. I get lost in the arguments. So first of all, I think the Honorable Raila, like every other Kenyan, who has the qualifications, has every right and should not be discriminated on the aspect of age or how many times he has exercised his democratic right. That's one. 2, I also think that as a leader, it is his responsibility to lead the people who are unhappy about what the other person in power is doing. And we all agree that there are issues, there are problems which are not being properly attended to. Now somebody is saying, if you claim to be leading these people and representing them, then you must listen to their issues. Otherwise, I am mobilizing, I'm taking the leadership position that I have already taken anyway to raise these matters. My way of raising them is to come to your doorstep But first, I go to here and there and demonstrate to you that the people are with me on this issue. So your response, obviously, of course, your response, which is the obvious response, is we are going to crush you. So I don't understand.
But-
yet, you say your predecessor was not clever. Your predecessor had gone away from the winner-take-all problem that Charity has raised, and said you go and high representative for infrastructure at the African Union. The previous predecessor had said you be executive prime minister. So why do you think that you are above all these others? So you face the music. Now we know that when elephants fight,
True.
the soil, the vegetation. So and you see, like I always say, once you and you know, I don't know, I would keep reminding people that the word wananchi in the newspaper writing, we would write it in italics. When I was in Kenya, I was asking because they would say something for Jamii, something for Jamii. They said, now Jamii is, hey, please don't be part of the general public. Wananchi. Don't be described as part of the general public. When you are there, then you are, the elephants are there, the elephants exist, they are going to fight, and you are going to be trampled upon. So how do you, like in Kovazambogo, how do you, like the skins of a buffalo in the Uganda speak? How do you get yourself out of that hole? And if it means going to the street, if it means coming to radio, television, like Charity will do, Charity will most probably not go on the street. You won't see her being thrown on a pickup. But her street is here.
Yeah.
Where I can comment on the style of hair, and it remains unruffled. And it remains unruffled.
My street is also on social media and the print media. It's
That's your
everywhere.
street, yes. Not the other one where they throw you on the pickup.
Yeah, but it's also there once in a while.
Once in a while,
Yeah.
yeah. So for me, I don't see any.
Actually, it is this week that police unveiled very brand new and big trucks.
I don't know whether these are ones are the ones made by us.
I
I don't know. Are they the ones we have been making with the General Majora?
So the likes of Charity have a reason not to
go to the street.
go to the streets anymore.
No, they have actually, in my view, they have more reason to go. In South Africa, they had the ugliest and most study of those vehicles. Why happy? They couldn't win.
So Richard, what do you make of Raila's move? You think you alluded to possibly a handshake?
No, you see, for me, first of all, akajogo. I don't know. You need proper words sometimes in this, in English for this.
So Ruto.
Akajogo.
Ruto does not respect Raila as an opposition.
Looks down upon. So why should the other one accept to be looked down upon? Let him bring the heat closer to this seat. These declarations that I won't shake hands. We have had them before.
Declaring that you're going to lead protests to State House to end a legitimate government. I think
you are legitimately protesting. You also are having a legitimate protest against the legitimate government, because the legitimate government is doing illegitimate things to its citizens. So you are legitimately protesting.
Should we tell our security forces to be on standby, especially along our borders and what?
No, for us as a country, we don't need to tell them. That is an assumption that they are sleeping. I am sure they are there, listening to the ones who are planning the protests, listening to the other ones who are going to react, mapping scenarios, advising the principal who has been using violence for a very long time and can start thinking what to do. I'm sure these scenarios, but also you don't wait because these scenarios have happened before. So I am sure some of the preparedness preparedness initiatives are just going to be activated. Yeah, these scenarios have been mapped before. We have been here before. Even in more tense situations, So I'm sure those are being activated already.
Okay, as we wind up, Dr. Gerard, do you have a concluding remark on that issue across our borders?
When Richard talked about a jogo, I recalled how Ruto described the Raila as the Mzee Tanga Tanga. You know, in Kiswahili, Tanga Tanga means
You're neither here
just
nor there.
zigzagging. You don't know where you are going.
Like you are either disordered.
Exactly. So I think the Mzee Tanga Tanga might show him that I'm actually not Tanga Tanga. I'm watching you. I know what you are doing, and I can easily mobilize people to make your life difficult. But at the end of the day, if it becomes bloody, of course, the talks will follow. But I'm not expecting a regime fall.
Okay.
But it's one way of pushing. And if you look at the history of Raila, such scenarios have led to certain changes. Talks and then changes, agreements, changing things here and there. So probably out of this, if people don't die, then you might see some changes in terms of policy, in terms of how they work, they do things.
And to me, I am very much concerned with the word you use it. If it turns bloody, and I cannot not forget whenever something of that nature happens across the borders, we directly suffer because many of our imports go through Kenya, and again they are our neighbors. We would not want to see blood again flow in Kenya. That was my biggest concern, and we pray that all goes well with our neighbors. Gentlemen and lady, let's go straight. Possibly, if you have maybe another big story, we can tackle it in just a few minutes. But we have to analyze the presidential address. I don't know, Richard, if you have.
You see, for me, I think my challenge is the lack of focus on the many deaths and terrible injuries that are happening because of crashes, because of road crashes. I was told this morning that an LC5 chairman of one of the districts
Oima.
in the Bunyoro region, and I think the driver perished in the less than 24 hours ago. She has just talked about seeing, I think, what she saw, a child being knocked. I also saw a child being knocked. We stopped. We were two lanes with the cars. We stopped to allow the children pass. The border guy came, jumped to the car, bridge in the river. For him, he rode the other way and carried the girl in uniform. We have seen on, I think it was yesterday, on the northern bypass. I think it was a general in another crash. Anyway, daily there is now what I think are not so accurate statistics, because I think a lot of these crashes are not documented. Say we lose not less than 11 people every day in road crashes, but it is because we don't visit the hospitals. You see, we have been talking about road safety. We are building a coalition. We are begging left, right, and center. I have told my colleagues here, Charity and Werike, I want you in the coalition, please, for road safety. In Mulago, the national referral, the highest level hospital. There is, you see, when you come with injuries, usually they have injuries to the spine because of the crash. When you come, there is a machine they tie, I think they tie it around here and here, something practical. It should stabilize your spine for some days. They have 6.
Oh.
Yeah, 6. So sometimes when they have just put it on this one, and another one comes and they estimate that is in then they remove it and put it on this one. Now, when you look at if you look at the level of disability now, we are getting, because that's a line, that's something we are not talking about at all. We are taken up by the deaths, which are very dramatic. I think the cost to this economy is estimated at more than 4 trillion.
Oh.
Yes, and it's increasing. And I talk about Mlagwa again because that's the experience I had when I went and they told me there was a border. And they told me that a high percentage of scheduled surgeries are rescheduled and pushed ahead because of the road crash victims who are always emergencies. So they take the surgery, the theater space, and they take the supplies, they take the surgeon's time, and they take the blood. So even the shortage of blood because of these road crashes. So I think it's a story we are not telling.
Yeah, true.
And it's been happening. So for me, every week. So when we went and we were having this meeting now during the week, and so what do we do? By the way, there is a national plan. Government has a national road safety action plan. So we are not even starting from zero.
Okay.
No. So I think we need the media and everybody of us.
Broader discussions.
Yes, to pay. No action. We have discussed a lot. Yes.
Charity, briefly about that particular topic, and he says it's a discussion we have not embraced, and we are all candidates because we use roads every day, and this is not about border or what anyone.
Yeah, we call ourselves temporarily abled people.
You know, I think what Richard is telling us is to benchmark other countries. How have they done it? And I think that national road safety action plan he's talking about talks about expanding roads, creating flyovers, and when you see this work that is happening now, and they're saying they're going to create a flyover where an electoral commission has handed over their office, they are hoping that will ease traffic and will create more room for people to move. But I think that it's beyond just creating the roads. We have a lot of indiscipline on the roads. People just want to drive how they want to drive. That because you're driving and I like to talk about the UCs. My God, the way they drive.
Red number plates.
They don't care, and then they put in the sirens once they see there is a jam. But you know, all these people in this traffic actually are also heading somewhere, and all of them are pressed for something. They are struggling. There are those who want to take their children. There are those who, every time I've had to break from the lane and go back into the lane, my heart is always pumping. I'm always saying, dear Lord, how can I be the one who is doing this? And I go back into the lane. But I do that when I see I have now spent 40 minutes being very disciplined on this road. Nothing is happening. And yet I know where I'm going. I'm also going to get late beyond an hour or 2 or 3. So I think the first thing that we need to do for everyone who steps on the road is to remind them on the question of discipline. The traffic officials have tried, but also the circumstances are difficult for them. Now, beyond the discipline, these potholes, we've talked about potholes for a very long time. Let me tell you, Apollo, one of the things that causes accidents sometimes is you're dodging a pothole. It has rained, you're driving out of everywhere, and there are thousands of potholes. Just look around the roads almost everywhere. When I pass Chibuli, I find thousands of potholes. There are Green Hill there, and that Chibuli Road turning on, coming from Monitor. I don't know how those people signed a contract for permanent potholes. Move to Naguru. When you're getting to the Naguru police station, that road there, the interchange, when you're getting into Naguru from Lugogo, by Lugogo stadium there. I mean, that whole place pothole. I mean, there's so many. Why we also need, I think the national plan has the whole infrastructure, fixing of the infrastructure. And I think these are critical things. We may overlook them. We may keep saying, you've talked about potholes all the time. These things are critical. If we fix the potholes, then we became disciplined, we widened the roads, we knew pedestrians walk here, we knew bicycles pass here. I see little children at 6 a.m., 5 a.m., and there you are, you're rushing, and other people don't care. He just told you how a boda carried another one. And you're seeing a red flag in front of you. You've put on double indicators to show the cars behind you that this is happening, but still there is someone who is thinking you're a fool to be parked there, and he's driving past you in discipline. When do we stop?
And I agree with you. I agree that accidents are happening because of these potholes here and there, bad roads and what. But again, I have to inform you that actually serious accidents in which many people lose lives will happen on those highways, either Jinja Road or Masaka, Mbarara Highway and Hoima and elsewhere, when we receive news of 20 perish in an accident. And I think it goes beyond maybe just potholes and all that. It's a huge it's a lot of things we have to look at. Dr. Jared Werihe,
the causes are really so many. I think she has managed to mention a few.
Yeah, indiscipline.
But if you look at even the mental health of some of the road users, is really negative. We have there's a very big company. This is Sayani Brothers near our place where we live. They have these China trucks, very many of them, and they're in a very sound condition with young men who drive them. And you know, the road from Jokers to Bukasa Port is very new. So you find people are running at a terrible speed, and yet he's going back to park the truck.
Somebody, after that accident in Gomba, somebody noted that there could be a problem with those Sino trucks, braking system, and I think they should investigate. And because
even the way the drivers do, they are very indisciplined. The very same thing I'm telling you.
Because they are in these monster machines, possibly.
They go hooting at anyone and anything. Care. Yes.
If you look at the number of crashes on all the highways, you will find on each of the highways we have had these road construction trucks. We think that the greatest reason is because you don't enforce against them. When they commit mistakes and you touch them, they are usually Chinese companies. They call somebody above. So it's really a question of impunity. Really, that's the major problem. They don't get any consequences.
Yes, also the knowledge of the
But
the
if
road
the
users.
Attorney General can follow through what the President had said, and we at least have one, then we have precedent. We need, sorry, you can proceed.
You can wind
I
up.
understand. I was also talking about the issue of the knowledge or the training of the road users. I've also seen pedestrians. You are in a corner. Okay, you are in a corner. You want to join a road, and then you are monitoring the left and right before you join. But the pedestrians will choose to come and pass in front, even when they had a chance. So you may look this side. As you look, this side is empty to go. Then there are pedestrians in front who are at a risk. So people in Uganda walk very carelessly. You see them even on the street. Someone is, most times they're in groups, they are just talking casually. Of course, I know that the use of the machine, you have a duty of care and skill.
Yes.
Okay?
No, the pedestrians have a duty too.
No, but the legal duty also lies with...
Now you have gone to legal. You see, when you are going to die, we are very careful about rigorism. You see, and sorry for interrupting you, but the second greatest number of people who are dying are actually pedestrians. So one of the issues is engineering, what you were talking about. But engineering is just one of the problems. The second thing is education. We lack education. And that's what you were talking about.
Absolutely.
But the other thing is enforcement.
Oh, yeah.
We also lack enforcement. Finally, we do not evaluate and inform the next
action.
So we are doing the same things.
Constructing the same way.
And I think there is also information gaps, misconceptions, misinformation, disinformation.
Like border people know that when it is red, or they don't have a time to stop.
But it's just impunity. For them, it's impunity.
I agree with
And
you.
it's very annoying, by the way. Borders who are watching us this morning, you tell your fellow cyclists that, no, we need a level of discipline.
Yeah.
But they are dying and getting maimed.
No, but they also need to tell their friends, and they need to also think for themselves and
They
say,
are
no,
amazing. It's as
we
like
need
they
a
have two
level,
lives.
we need a level of discipline. And taxi drivers as well. I think this is also a call to them. Every taxi driver who has got a chance, okutulabako on Salt TV,
But
please.
who is disciplined? Because you now you can talk about taxi drivers and borders, but again,
But even
wait a
the
minute.
ordinary
Charity,
drivers, yes,
Charity,
the discipline is...
remember when you were starting your
I said
submission,
UCs.
you talked about UCs.
The
Those are not driven by these.
And UH and UJ, the ones who
So-
are
We have to blame anyone. I think
and
we have to
people who
blame
also
ourselves.
have these
Everyone.
V8s, VX, it has a siren inside. The other time police said we are taking away these sirens. They have never done it.
So
Anybody can
and
have it.
actually, even the law is very clear on the right of way. Those who have the right of way, and UCs are not. I don't think they are part of that group anyway. It's something. It's very, very important and of great concern to talk about, because I remember when we were talking about when we were comparing how many people died during the coronavirus pandemic and Ebola, and you relate to how many died in road crashes, borders and all that, you can see that maybe the attention we are focusing on these pandemics and what, maybe we have to think again compared to the attention we are giving the road crashes and all that. Viewers, we need to go into really serious politics. The presidential address did address some issues, but others think that some really critical matters were not addressed in that presidential address. We go for a break, and when we return, we'll be looking at that presidential address. What were the hits and the misses in that presidential address? The issues of Karamoja, iron sheets. I can remind you that Right Honorable Anita Among returned. Of course, she actually told Parliament that she's going to return the 500 iron sheets she was given, and now you know that indeed it is becoming very, very serious. This is the dialogue. My name is Timapolo. Richard Baguma is a communication expert. Charity Msibe is a human rights activist, and Dr. Gerard Werihe Wanzara is a researcher from Africa Leadership Institute. And let's go straight to the presidential address, and maybe to enrich the discussion, I can remind you that before the address, the president came out and issued a directive, and looks like this week police and the office of the director for public prosecutions, the office of the IGG, have swung into action on the matter of the theft of the Karamoja iron sheets. We actually, at the beginning of the week, received a report from police that the force is ready to even invite the implicated government officials to make statements, and the investigations will be kicking off. I think those were the expectations in the public, which the president did not mention in his address. But let me ask Dr. Gerard Werihe Wanzara to open up our discussion today. The president zeroed on PDM, the parish development model, and according to the law, the constitution, the president is not. It is his own choice to address the parliament on a certain matter, not what we anticipate or what we really want as a public. Start from there. Why do you think the president only picked PDM and not this contentious matter of corruption in Parliament and elsewhere?
Thank you, Apple. I agree that the president has the constitutional right to address the country, the Parliament, on matters whenever he feels fit. And I can say that the public expectations were different. You know, communication was revolutionized with social media. And when you see in different groups what people are anticipating was totally the opposite of what they had. But for me, I was not surprised. Actually, I told the people on one of the forums that don't get shocked when he talks about COVID and wearing masks and he doesn't talk about iron sheets. And indeed, it happened. He has been on various tours within the country and abroad. As you are aware, the head of state was in South Africa not long ago. And there are a lot of issues they talked about, including a possibility of Ugandans entering 2024 visa-free or getting it at the airport. And then we saw the visit in Algeria was really big and was very much publicized here and then in Algeria. And then he talked about them supporting the oil industry, specifically the issue of the domestic refinery. But I don't know how many people are going to construct that refinery, because when he was in the US, we heard about the feedback that the Americans were going to do it. Now he was begging the Algerians to do it. So there were those issues that as citizens we thought he would talk about. But specifically, the speaker in the preamble before the president spoke, he said this address came as a result of a phone conversation that they two had. And you also know that the president quoted where he has been touring in Acholi and I think other parts of northern Uganda, where he found that the PDM was not doing well, partly because of corruption or greed, where civil servants connive and form or influential perform circles, and yet this program was targeting the 39% who are not in the money economy. So that's a point of concern he raised. The other is about stealing, and then he promised to handle them, to crush them, and Richard usually laughs at that because he says every time he says we'll crush, they continue stealing. They continue stealing, meaning they don't take his threats very, very seriously. And I've confirmed this. Not long ago, RDC Mpimbaza Hashaka, who was fighting corruption in Ibukwo, decided to write to the minister in charge of the president and say, you know what? These ones I cannot manage. You transfer me. I saw also the RDC of Noya this week crying, and the council directed him that on issues of corruption he should keep quiet.
Really?
Yes, they don't want him to say anything because he's shaming the district. So what I picked, the president dwelt so much on that. He spoke very little about, you know, the economy. He talked about the Nzige locusts, how they fought.
He was congratulating.
He congratulated, exactly. So those, he did not focus so much. But also the contentious issue that is of public interest.
I was concerned, and I was asking you, why do you think he picked PDM in particular and not what the public expected? Why?
He really, I can't say he was trying to divert us from the iron sheets, since in the previous news we were reading, he said that is a police matter. They should investigate. So probably he did not want to appear like he's influencing the investigations and the prosecution of these people. But he told you that he's concerned because he wants to transform society, but there are people who are letting him down. And there is something specific I quoted, which he told MPs that if you are a leader, do not carry people on your head. And this business of donations, guide them, lead them to become their own agents of change. but not you carrying them thinking you'll solve all
their
problems
problems.
by giving money. But of course, he said that, but he has been doing it also by example, by giving money actually at public gatherings. I saw sometime in Masaka where youth carried the sack and was so I think these people think that if the head of state is doing this, why can't we also do the same?
Okay. Charity, let me pick your opinion on what you think, why you think, or the president picking PDM amidst all these other issues. And again, like Gerard and the speaker said, it is the president who initiated this special sitting. It was a special sitting of Parliament.
And the last one he had was in 2018.
When Abiriga was shot.
So, if you see that he's taken those number of years to ask for a special sitting, there must be a very specific reason he was looking at. And why PDM? Even State House had told the journalists that what they knew he was coming to address was PDM. If you had read the story the Monitor published before the president spoke to Parliament, and the Monitor said, don't expect the president to talk about iron sheets, even though it's still within his mandate to do it. If you look at Article 98 and 99 of the Constitution, that's where the president draws his mandate. And it's him that appoints his ministers. And it's him that appoints the vice president and the prime minister. And the problem that we're having is within the Prime Minister's office. And the mandate for the Prime Minister is 108A of that Constitution. It is well spelled out. What is the Prime Minister supposed to do? What are her functions? And then also the mandate of the ministers in Article 113 and from Article 111 up to Article 114, where the President is also allowed to put a number of deputy ministers and what their roles are. If you look at their mandate, it is mainly to implement policy that has been conceived at executive level.
The ministers.
Yes. So does he have some policies that he had conceived at executive level that he is seeing they are not being implemented? Okay. And for me, from an administrative point of view, I think then he knew, one of them being parish, because he says he had gone to Acholi and he had discovered that there were structural challenges with the implementation of the parish development model. What happened is that with the parish development model, because we now have 10,194 parishes. I've been looking for that figure because it had flown out of my head. I had the 2,000 sub-counties, but I was wondering, kumbe, how many parishes do we have? Because when he first suggested that he's sending 100 million to every parish, we said that was very ambitious. 1.49 trillion was going to be earmarked to do this. And if you actually see the first consignment of money that reached the parishes, nothing has even matched up to 50 million. Most of the parishes had about...
From 732.
Exactly. So, and most of them had also not established the SACCOs. And this money, this time, it went directly. These middlemen had been edged out. Remember that plan for modernization of agriculture, Emioga, Entandikwa, Bonabagagawale, all these ones had middlemen in them. And he even talked about it. You heard him saying, when I put the army there, the army started to distribute amongst themselves, and the army men started laughing amongst themselves when he was saying these things. But what he was saying is that the middlemen are now looking at how do we make the whole thing go upside down, and we put ourselves back into the mix. Really? Because yes, that is what the middlemen are doing. The middlemen are trying to see how do we confuse these parishes to the extent that the SACCOs cannot be formulated the way they are being formulated properly. How do we say the program is failing, the program is going to, it is a failure from the start? Why has there been so much negative press? Not to even give a bit of positivity of what is happening. And for him, coming from a point of economic recovery, I want to look at this PDM thing from a very positive perspective. Because also as human beings, we need to learn to trade some hope. If we're always only going to have hopeless situations, then when will we ever get out of here? We have to get out of here ourselves. It starts with us. So if there are some good initiatives, when do we support them? Yeah. And how do we support them? So this was one of the good initiatives. And I think we need to support it in as far as it can go. When it fails, we can always review.
Did you say there could be a deliberate
of the middlemen
by the middlemen to frustrate
very clear,
and possibly that is why the president is very passionate about it and is coming out to address parliament to send that strong message.
And he said you will vomit the money, but of course Dr. Werihe Wanzala and Richard have told you they always laugh at these words. The president has very interesting diction when he's intimidating and scaring people, but he ends up not taking action. I wish there is once when he took that action and people said, this time he said you'll vomit. They actually vomited, but it has not happened. But for PDM, if you look at, you're calling it 39% who are outside the money economy. But when you read The Economist, it is actually 69% of Ugandans who are outside that money economy. Now, if this money reached the sub-county just by NLAC, even the 32, which he said don't return, okay, he said don't return it to
they keep it until it accumulates.
It accumulates and it's ready
and
for
they are ready.
Implementation. Now, if by NLAC, any parish becomes a model, or of the 10,000, we get 8,000 parishes.
Yeah, that's good development.
Yes, if we can get, 5,000, 1,000, only 1,000 of the 10,000. I've even dropped it. I've dropped the 10,000. The rest of them will not manage. They will not connect. The money will fail. The money is somehow things are not going to work. Okay, and we only remain with 1,000.
Yeah, good progress.
That money would trickle to the parish and to these circles. Maybe the 1 million will not happen for every individual because that is the misinformation. One of the things he came to address was the misinformation of everyone who comes in the circle will get
1M
because it's not going to be possible. But they will have some money to use for their own businesses, which they want to use. And it's not going to be determined for them by government. It's not going to be determined for them by the middlemen like it was with the NADS when they said, okay, we are bringing these other plants you should grow. Then when they had failed, they said, now we have changed. Now let's go for this plant. So they were always thinking for them. Now they are letting the people themselves think for themselves and decide that this is what we want to do.
Okay.
Of course, money handouts have never worked anywhere. We know that. But given the way the economy is right now,
people need that capital.
There is a need, and if the banks, the bank rate for returning loans and getting loans is so high, I think the interest rate actually is the word I was looking for. Then this would be your silver bullet. So for me, I think from a very positive point of view, from a very Ugandan point of view, I think everyone should think, okay, how do we support this process?
Patriotism.
And how do we keep away the thieves? This time, if they are there, okay, can we allow them to steal only for 9,000 parishes and we do 1,000?
So Charity, the motivation where the president drew that passion to summon parliament, you think it is to drive that social economic transformation agenda of the NRM he has been talking about all the time?
I think that it can't be that it was the only motivation, because the president, when he comes to address, there are many things he's thinking about. But he needed a bargaining chip. Okay. Of course, the public is already angered. They are angry. They're angry with this iron sheet saga. They are angry with the corruption that is existing. They are angry with the fact that they don't have money. They are broke. They are angry with the infrastructure. They are angry with the weather, harsh weather conditions. It's flooding instead of raining normally like it normally rains. Even if you put your plants there, some of them will die in the garden because the rain is too much. So everything is frustrating. Look everywhere, everything upside down. And your leaders seem to be happy with what they have. For them, they have what they can use. So the frustration is maximum. And you're coming to talk to people who are already angry. What do you do?
Okay.
You need to give them
Hope.
temperature cooler. So for me, this was a cooler of temperatures. How do we cool the temperatures?
Baguma Richard, what do you make of the president's choice for PDM amidst all the agitations from the public that he should be addressing issues of corruption and possibly the ministers who were censured and are still occupying offices, and that is the impunity possibly you have been always talking about?
I think it's the usual vintage. President Museveni. I think he was the, first of all, it's a practice of him to weaponize silence. So I think he weaponizes silence. He keeps all of you tenterhooks. Yeah, and so I think that is one, his approach to things. Two, he told us.
Okay, wait a minute. Possibly we will get back to. I think you. They are working on a microphone. Well, I think I had a feeling that possibly the president looks at PDM as his silver bullet in this term of office of 5 years. I don't know if I'm right or wrong. You'll tell me, Richard, but it looks like he's passionate about PDM, the success of PDM, and he did, like Charity says, possibly it could be a game changer if it works out. And I also remember that the president was also very passionate about Uganda leaping into middle income. You remember the discussion here when he was the World Bank saying, no, you're not yet there, and the president is saying we are already there. And even actually you talked about the Women's Day in Chiruhura. He reiterated the same statement. He said we are already there. We only have 1 year to prove. To prove. It is 3 years. We have worked 2 years, so we only have 1 year. I have a feeling that the president possibly is passionate about this milestone of Uganda being declared a middle-income country, and that's why he's pushing this PDM project to possible to how it can possibly be a success. And I still. And then there are voices that possibly the parish development model cannot work when we still have corruption, so he should be speaking about corruption, especially if now that it involves high government officials. Pick up from there. I think you're good to go, Richard.
I hope the microphone is on. One is I talked about weaponizing silence. Vintage President Museveni. This is something he does. He weaponizes silence and keeps you on the tenterhooks. I think that's one. Two, he has a word he told us many years ago. He said he lets the things, is what he calls oktenencherera. He leaves
to settle. The water to settle.
He leaves things to settle. Meanwhile, he's gathering as much information. He's cross-checking, so this information comes, but he does counter-checking.
About the Mawati?
For every of the situations, yes, he does counter-checking. So this one brings him a report, then he sends the other one to counter-check. Because he has also learned that a lot of people claim to write professional reports, but they are moving towards a certain objective, particularly when you have contesting high-level politicians who want to throw each other off and demonize each other. So, as the investigations are going on, I am not sure that it was prudent for him to jump in with conclusions. That's it. But the other thing is that, particularly for PDM, he had a report from Parliament.
Oh, yeah. Members were sent to for an oversight
So he
mission.
came back to respond to this report which you gave him. I'm not sure he yet has a report on Mabati from Parliament. No, I think they are still doing their work. So it would also have been premature on his part. So he can claim, that one. And 3, I think the Mabati question, I mean, there are how many? 21 ministers implicated. I don't know how many. By the way, they are members of Parliament. Including the highest member of Parliament.
This chair of the House.
Who is this one? But they are also technical officers at the national level, but also at the recipient local governments. So it is much bigger, much broader than people are talking about.
So you say it is prudent that the president should have avoided the talk of Mabati and everything until he
has a full picture. Yes, until he has a picture. But until also he has decided politically what he is going to do with these things. Because I think for me it's going to be an opportunity first to give opportunity to the MPs who have been extremely pro Muhoozi's project. I think they are coming into cabinet. I think it's an opportunity for him he is going to bring them in. And let's wait. These recordings are here.
Now so, you bring in another.
No, I think it's an opportunity because it's a golden opportunity. We know that the cabinet reshuffle happens around this time.
Is there a plan? Wait a minute. You're close to power. Is there a plan to bring Muhoozi, pro Muhoozi?
No, I am not close to power.
Okay. Very close. Intare boy inside the Intare house, very close to power. The man, don't play with this and it's true.
Is there a plan to bring pro Muhoozi?
He's also a professional mammo.
Yes, he's in the corridors of power. For me, I told you.
You see, it's just to do predictions. You just do modeling and you just do predictions. But also the other thing is the vomiting. I think the vomiting of the iron sheets has already started. You just commented on vomiting.
He said they will vomit the parish money if those whom he said had touched it. He said he had reports that touched, they are going to vomit it.
But, I don't know. What I know he says the money is toxic.
He said it is toxic.
That it is quite poisonous. So I said, no, the technocrats have run to get anti-poison.
Oh.
Yes, they have learned. You get bitten by a venomous snake, it doesn't kill you. You know how to go about it. They have all along. But I also think that for the parish development model, and we are told by government institutions that we are not ready for it. If you remember, the chief of the Bureau of Statistics came and told us we have no basis
we don't have data
for rolling out this program. So but because of our politicization, we dismissed him. Because you see, the PDM started from somewhere. The PDM came from the same place where the NSSF meetings were taking place.
Oh.
Yes. Those were the architects.
Somewhere in Ruwero.
Those were the architects, yes. Because all the things begin from Ruwero. You know, even our struggle. So it came from a non-government space. It was pushed onto down the throat of the government system without preparing the government system. And the government technocrats came out, the ones who have the courage to say, because it is very dangerous for you to say that we are not ready. But the ones who had the courage came and said we are not ready, we went ahead. So we are seeing the consequences.
So there are consequences of haphazard,
of half-baked implementation and forcing the thing
PDM
down. We are seeing them now, and we are going to see more. The other one is, you see, PDM has, I think, 7 pillars.
Yeah.
The first pillar was mindset change. There has been no mindset change initiatives before you bring the money. So it means, like all the programs that Charity very well enumerated, she remembers them better than me. The behavior is going to be the same. Because this is not the first time the population is getting money from government, cash. So there is nothing for me on the ground that has happened to give me the confidence that PDM money will be treated differently. Couple that with the ever-changing guidelines. Ask the local government people. Money came and they kept it on their accounts because they were not guided. How do they deal with money? You tell them 100 million is coming, 17 come. So what do? Who do they give 17? They look for enterprises, the people whom they think can pay back. You tell them, no, everybody must be a beneficiary. But if a parish has 10,000 people, how will I choose the ones who take the 17? They understand that people should get $1 million, then you say, no, the ones who want 700,000, you can give them. So the confusion from the center regarding the guidelines on implementation of PDM is not being talked about.
Okay.
Yeah, so that thing, and then there is no mechanism for enforcement for failure to comply. The mechanisms that exist are the same of Myoga, of Bagagaware, of I don't know, Tandikwa, they're the same. Those mechanisms have not worked in the past. Why do we expect them to work? What is the miracle with PDM? So same approach, same action, same mindset, and you expect
same
different
result.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Charity alluded to another. I think it's suspicion that the people, the technocrats or people who the real culprits, the usual culprits are the same who are frustrating the Myoga, who are frustrating the PDM just because they were left out, because the money went directly to the parishes, and I don't know what you think, whether you think that could be true, that the people who the real culprits who failed, the middlemen who failed all the other projects, because they are left out, they are the ones frustrating the project.
I think, for me, that's what I was saying, that they have learned the antivenom. Yeah, you say this is venomous, they have learned the antivenom. You say this is poisonous, they have learned the antivenom.
It could be true.
You see, we are a society of middlemen and middlewomen, by the way. I'm told that now Oxfam is saying we shouldn't say mother and father. That's another conversation. We should say married, not women and men. We should say person. Okay, of middle persons. And you can see this in every initiative that we are doing. So if indeed they are middle people in PDM, how surprising would that be, and why should it be surprising? Because Apple have told you previously that there are people who form companies. They have 23, they belong to 23 companies, different people. Their job is to apply for every contract that is advertised. They know they will not win, but they will apply and be bidders. And they will look for the minutest fault through the bidding process and frustrate that. So then they will go to anti-corruption unit, CID, PPDA, everywhere, and accuse you of flouting subsection 1A of the 59 sections of the bidding document. And then you'll go to them and pay them off to get off your back. So we are a society of middle persons. And we have mortgaged our initiatives to middle persons. You find them, what do? Wake up, go sit at a coffee place, move from one cafe to the other, and you say, but this one, what does he or she do?
We still have a big problem there. And you again agree with the Charity and Dr. Jared Werihe that the president was actually right to sidestep the expectations of the public and address PDM, leave the investigative bodies to do their work on issues of corruption.
For me, it's not about right or wrong. For me, it's not about right or wrong. He was being himself, playing the vintage Museveno politics.
Musevenomics.
They mix this one Museveno politics. Playing the one, weaponizing his silence, keeping people on a cliffhanger, keeping the population waiting, buying time to see how best to manage the politics, the explosive politics around this thing, and knowing that time so helps you solve the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. That if you don't deal with it today and you give it tomorrow and the other day, people will move on. Some of the things will not happen, and then you will do what you would like to do in the way you want to do it.
Doesn't it, Gerard, doesn't that make him look like he's not serious about these big expectations of the public? Does it work for him, or it is somehow counterproductive for him to remain silent when the whole, a big chunk of the population expects him to talk about such an important matter like corruption?
For me, actually, I wouldn't want to downplay the whole initiative behind the PDM. I think deep in his mind, like you said, it's a silver bullet for transformation. If you look at the PDM design document, he mentioned mindset change. There are other pillars like value addition, development of agricultural value chain and value addition. He talks about parish-based information system.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then talks about the implementation model of parish development committees. So you see that actually he thinks that if he addresses the problem at the closest level to the public, it will make miracles. But it looks like there is a disconnect between his vision,
Exactly.
what he thinks about this, and the people who are in charge of
Even the
making sure
leaders.
that, yes, like these agents, the middlemen she's talking about, some of them are political leaders at the local level. When we had NADS, they would be the first to share the cassava stems, the seeds, the fertilizers, so the target person goes empty-handed. And you saw him saying, I had to abandon that and bring soldiers. When he brought soldiers, they also became farmers themselves.
Exactly.
Okay.
So Gerard, Dr. Gerard and Charity, can we agree that President Museveni has been spot on? Is addressing actually the real issues in the society, but maybe we or his people have let him down? Because you even talked about, wait a minute, you talked about him going to Algeria, looking for markets, going to the Western world. I think he went to US, wooing investors.
Even he went to UK.
Yeah, he's wooing investors to come and invest in
Even
this
you know that he has run away.
He's
from
now rallying Parliament to support and supervise a very important development project, PDM.
And he has
Have
been
we-
sleeping in Guru and
Yes.
all these places to
Have
see.
we really let him down? Even the leaders have let him down. He's on the right path.
If you look at the anger, okay, that he portrays when he's speaking, and then I remember during the, was it NRM anniversary day, when he said, these corrupt people, these pigs, I will roast them. So by the time he talks of roasting the pigs, you know that someone is very, very angry. The fact is that there are people.
But he doesn't eat pork.
But some of the problems are systemic. I'll give an example, like some of these districts where we come from. When you say, okay, we are recruiting parish chiefs who are going to be the drivers of this change, those people with fake academic documents go to bribe the district service commission and they find themselves in the system. They don't understand anything. They have forged papers from NASA Road. They have taken over. So when they get these jobs, first of all, they don't know what to do, but their allegiance is also is captured somewhere. The people who recruited them. So they actually become agents of people who recruited them. Because if you don't do, they will smoke you out. They know your weak point. At the end of the day, you have Uganda sample, you have parish chiefs who don't know what they are doing. So if
Some
they
of them.
don't know what they are doing, then how are they going to transform?
Okay, viewers, it is time to pick your feedback, and I'll ask our producer to run that number on your screen, 0701-609906, 0701-609906. Send your message or comment on WhatsApp or SMS. Don't call the number. Send a WhatsApp message or our usual SMS short messaging. You can send your comment on what you think about this presidential address to Parliament. With all the agitation and anger in the public that possibly the president should have addressed the issue of corruption, and to some extent I think corruption is one and the only, okay, not only one, but one of those key challenges that have dogged all these other initiatives.
Talk about. But you see, Apple, you are going to enumerate the corruption scandals again. This one has resonated with people, in my view, because people relate to Mabati.
Oh.
If it had been, because this is little money.
No, they are goats.
But we are not talking about them.
We also talked about them, but we gave up on them because they were Bua goat.
We didn't understand them. And by the way, in relative terms, the Mabati money is little money.
Oh, yeah.
Compared to the other
but the beneficiaries, I think what makes it,
because
is Karamoja.
People relate to them. I'm not sure that
and the people who are involved.
By the way, I'm not sure that the Karamajongo relate to this
government
Mabati.
officials, including the Prime Minister.
I'm not sure that the people of
Karamoja MPs
relate to Mabati.
The Karamoja MPs are Karamojas.
No, we are trying now to improve their lives.
Yeah, so who made the decision that the priority need for Karamoja was Mabati?
The Karamoja MPs were there in that meeting.
I actually think that the decisions were made so that we get Mabati and share them.
Really?
For our constituency.
Which is also, it wouldn't have been a bad idea if we were not celebrating on the graves of people who are struggling. I think the point is, for me, there are big lessons to learn from that Iron Sheet saga. One of the biggest lessons is that we must go back to the public administration. How do we run governments? How are systems run? And for me, when he respects the institution of DPP and the institution of police and IGG and gives them a chance to do investigations and waits for reports, that's the correct way to run government. We should be able to see these things happening across the board. Let us stop these things of, I send a WhatsApp to Richard and say, send me 20,000 Mabati, and you send them. Because when it comes to time for holding a person accountable, we shall be asking the critical question, where is the basis? A WhatsApp message? Really? Which can be adulterated? Those who know about the Electronic Transfer Act also know that anything can happen within the electronic space. I can copy and paste, I can change, I can do anything with what I want. I can get this phone and edit whatever I want to edit. So admissibility of that evidence in court becomes very problematic. But if it is printed, it is hard copy, it is original, it is certified, it is, I mean, this is why these processes were established.
WhatsApp and others, that is the casual way. That shows how casual we, and some send the message here, Mabati, and then you run and you pick them. That shows you how casual we now do our things. Viewers, don't call the number you see on the screen. Please send messages. Send messages on WhatsApp. Send messages in our usual SMSs, and we really need to pick your comments on the discussion in the studio here.
Charity, just 1 second.
Yeah,
because of what she said. I think that's when Matia now becomes right to say, to give a defense that they came walking.
Yes, they flew from where, I don't know.
I don't know.
Charity, talk about
no public statement to pin me.
Talk about the decision taken by the Right Honorable Speaker. For her, she said after analysis of events and what, she came to a conclusion that the Mabati were diverted, they belong to the Kalimajong, and she reimburses the stores at OPM with new Mabati.
After deep reflection, she realized that the people of Karamoja,
she returns the, I don't want to call it the root.
The ones that really were in dire need of these iron sheets, and that it was a disservice to take the iron sheets from them. Okay,
What do you make of that decision?
The question which I want us to carefully reflect, why was she returning the Mabati now? Why has the speaker just decided to return the Mabati now? Why didn't she return them spontaneously when everybody was being put on the spot of these are the people who have shared the iron sheets?
Because
and
she's creating a response
to
the probe.
We have also seen creating a response to the probe. See, if that reflection, Richard, of saying, I have realized the people of Karamoja actually needed these iron sheets more than the people of Bukedea, it should have been as spontaneous as it happened. Not first saying, me, I also don't know how those Mabati go to Bukedea. Honestly, I don't even know on earth
let the minister carry her cross.
Carry your own cross, because why are you pulling us down with you? How did the Mabati end up there? Me, I asked for it. And then also one other minister, the other lady from Karamoja said, I must be mad if I return those iron sheets.
Really?
She said, me, I'll have them. Adekun. I'll have them. I will not return them. And she's a very close friend to the speaker. So I think that politicians take us on a wild goose chase all the time. We are flying about. You know, for us, we are gullible. Anytime you come, you pierce us, you say this. But it is a good move if all the Mabati can come back.
Okay.
Let also Matia Kasaija bring them back. Yes, the speaker has taken an initiative, very good.
She has set a precedent.
She has set a precedent. She has brought them. Let Matia also bring them back. The one who had roofed his goat chicken house.
That one removed them already.
He removed them, but we have not seen them. We have not seen them arriving at the Prime Minister's store. Because what the IGG said is important. The IGG said once there was a bonanza of sharing out Mabati, even the storekeepers shared. Even them, they went away with something. Because you can't be sharing amongst yourselves. It's me who is passing them on and me, I just look on. So until we get back, let's get back to the basics. How many went missing? How many have been returned? Let's do an audit for ourselves. And can they all come back? If they can bring them, all of them back, that's a good sign. We have somewhere to start.
Richard, I saw Honorable Semujunganda on the floor of Parliament saying, I'm worried. I don't see the Honorable Prime Minister here, the Right Honorable Prime Minister here, and if I saw her, I would actually call police because she's a wanted. Anyway, and the gesture from the Right Honorable Speaker to return the Mabati, as investigations have already started. What does it speak to you in just 3 minutes as we conclude?
You see, for me, this is to forestall the conclusion of the probe. This is to answer the conclusion of the probe. The probe will say the Mabati were taken and the Mabati were returned.
Oh.
Yeah, so these ones who took and returned, then how do you punish the one who has already shown remorse? So you politically answer, you get off the hook.
Oh.
That is, in my view,
that's one way to get off the hook.
Yes, what it is calculated to do. I can tell you that, in fact, you will see this issue is there is attempt at Parliament especially to reframe this question. And the reframing is that the office of the Prime Minister is too big and therefore amorphous and difficult to manage. And so the recommendation is that it should be split.
Oh.
My answer for me is that instead of having a scandal in one scandal in one place, we are going, if you split it into 7 ministries, we are going to have 7 scandals. Yes, but that is the reframing that I have seen is being attempted now to do. For me, the collapse of ethics, really, the near total collapse of ethical approach to things, coupled with the sustained manipulation of the judicial and investigative institutions and systems, coupled with the need to have power sustainably and continuously at any cost, multiplied with the closing of almost all the spaces by the population and the civic institutions to speak,
Yes.
muzzling them
You
again
can't
and again.
say.
This is a very fertile propagation of continued impunity and no consequences to things. And this will be reflected again and again.
Okay. Viewers who are sending in comments, please, I request that you also touch your names, because we need to know who we are speaking to or who is sending in comments. And here someone says, the State of the Nation address, but this was not a State of the Nation, it was an address to Parliament. In common sense means addressing the current state of the nation, not just talking about programs that have existed for 2 years. And why is it that whenever ADF carries out their operations, the president comes out quick and addresses the situation, but not about corruption that is happening in the NRM government currently? Do you pick that? Possibly any of you can respond to that. And another one says, the wages of sin is death in the Bible. What is the wage of thieves in our country? And that is why I would ask you viewers to send in your names. When you send a message, send in your names. They didn't attach their names. Good morning, sir. Thank you for the good program you gave us today. Thank you so much. It's an appreciation coming in from there. And you can keep those messages coming in. We only have 3 minutes or 4 minutes. Let's share them as we conclude. What do you expect, Charity? Because like Semju said, people may be already on a wanted list. We expect. Do you expect to see a very big government official being interrogated at CPS or at CID headquarters? What do you expect?
It will be surprising if they get interrogated and anything comes out. But if we must consider the political statement that my friend Richard made, and it's not a light statement, that Muhoozi's team is now going to be well situated for cabinet.
For positions in cabinet.
It's not a far-fetched thing to think, and it's not also a far-fetched thing to see happening right now, because we also saw him taking to his Twitter space, and he said some things. One, these thieves thought they are too clever for us. They even said, you go ahead and intimidate us. We are here, we shall manage them. One statement. Two, he came back and said, I have heard all your comments about these potholes. In my government, for us, we shall not stand corruption. He said it. So these statements he has been saying, they are not outwardly wayward. They are statements that have also been manifested by General Muhoozi.
And someone asked, what are the wages of thieves in government?
So the wages of thieves in government, has always, they have a way around it, and they will move back in, and they will always be there. So there is no wage of sin for
corruption in
corruption for government. But I think that even if the axe doesn't fall, although I had expected the axe to fall, even if the axe doesn't fall, we need to put back the systems in place. Systems exist for a reason. Governments cannot be run without systems. We need institutions, we need systems, we need the technocrats. We need to talk with them. The problem with politicians, when they come with their political clout, they push technocrats, they ignore them. No, it is important that you listen to the technocrat, pay attention, work with them.
Good. And he is Rogers Atuijuka from Kagadi district. He says, I hope what the president did by not speaking about those people who Mabati was right, because he has to give a chance other government officials to finish investigations, because the president should not take personal or take it personal. Okay. Opposition say they had. So, I think he's talking about the opposition boycotting. Did it make sense for opposition not for opposition boycotting the address?
For me, I didn't see much effect. Of course, they used the event, the boycott, to raise matters of human rights and saying government is not appropriate responding to their issues. But also what was significant is that I saw one NUP MP, the one who was accused of taking the 40 million and when he took it
Back.
to back and then his own party disowned him.
He was
and
actually accused of returning it, not of taking it.
and was abandoned, he became isolated. So I was really impressed to see Kagabo Twaha. So, I think it was a protest against the NUP leadership. But my sources in Parliament,
In 30 seconds.
okay, my sources in Parliament told me that the Honorable Tayewa was called to receive iron sheets.
Oh.
And then he said, but I don't remember asking for iron sheets or promising anyone. So, but where are they coming
So he
from?
was smart.
He was smart because a leader at that level, when you are being try to ask, I'm given for what? And actually, the code of conduct of leadership requires that you declare the gifts if it's a gift. So leaders should not hold these high positions and just take them casually.
Okay. Corruption is everywhere because if even top people can do such a things, which means it has become a serious chain. My point is the government should eliminate top leaders in all sectors who have misused their powers into corruption. This is Salah from Balaga. Richard.
The axe will be swung.
30 seconds.
Yeah, the axe will be swung. The axe will be swung for political reasons. Some people will appear at the anti-corruption court.
Really?
Yes. And some people will lose their positions. Then the changes that were to be introduced will be introduced with now public upload, but that there will be a fundamental change in the implementation of PDM or the looting of public resources, that there will be a fundamental change, there will be none.
Well, thank you so much, our viewers. I picked from Baguma's submission that there are going to be changes, and looks like the changes were pre-planned. And let's wait. We can only wait. Thank you so much, our viewers. Thank you so much for those comments, and thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much, Richard. It's a pleasure having you here.
Always a pleasure being here, particularly predicting that some people who will come in.
Charity, thank you so much for your time and for being here for this show.
Hey, it is nice sitting here near people who are in power corridor. It's good to sit near Richard, the owner of Montare, and the powerhouse, and the doctor.
A man from Namisi in White, so it's a pleasure having you on the show.
Maybe Richard is the one carrying the axe for us.
But being swung and it's going to fall.
Viewers, we will be back next Saturday. My name is Simapolo. Let's wish you a splendid week and a week ahead. Good afternoon.